Have you ever wondered what it feels like to face old age alone, with no one by your side? The quiet of an empty house, the ache of missing loved ones, and the uncertainty of what lies ahead can weigh heavily on the heart. In today's video from Candle of Wisdom, we dive into the deeply moving story of Mark Thompson, a 62-year-old American retiree who confronts these very challenges. His journey through loss, loneliness, and resilience offers profound lessons that could change how you approach aging, whether for yourself or someone you care about. Why should you watch until the end? Mark's story isn't just a tale of hardship, it's a roadmap for finding purpose and peace in later years. You'll discover practical strategies he used to combat isolation, from financial planning to building new connections, that you can apply to your own life or share with aging loved ones. His emotional encounters, with his children, his neighbor Mr. Lewis, and a new companion, Linda Brown, reveal universal truths about love, loss, and the courage to keep living fully. This video will inspire you to cherish relationships, prepare for the future, and embrace each moment, no matter your age. Don't miss the heartfelt insights and actionable advice that could reshape your perspective on growing older. Stick with us to the end for a powerful reminder. Even in life's toughest seasons, there's hope, strength, and wisdom to be found. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. One quiet evening, I found myself sitting alone on the living room sofa, wrapped in the stillness of an empty house. The peace was overwhelming, almost suffocating, and suddenly, I was struck by a deep, aching loneliness. It crept over me like a cold shadow, and I could feel it settle in my chest. For a moment, it felt as though the world had moved on without me, leaving me behind to grapple with the silence. Then, as if to break the spell, my phone rang. It was Adam. His voice sounded rushed, like he had been meaning to call for days but had only just found the time. "Hey, Dad, are you home alone tonight?" he asked. "I was going to bring Kate over, but something came up at work, and we can't make it." I felt a pang of disappointment, a knot of longing tightening in my stomach, but I quickly pushed it down. After all, Adam was busy. He had his own life, his career, and his family. I didn't want to burden him with my feelings. "It's fine, son," I said, forcing a smile into my voice. "Don't worry about me. I'm okay on my own." But as the call ended, a wave of emptiness washed over me. I let out a long, deep sigh, feeling more alone than I had in a long time. Once, I had been a part of the daily hustle and bustle, working every morning, caring for my family, being needed. Now, in early retirement, I had nothing but the quiet and my thoughts. My wife was gone, and my children had their own lives, far removed from mine. The house felt too big, too quiet. It felt like the walls were closing in, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just fading into the background of life. The next day, as if by some miracle, Mr. Lewis, my neighbor, stopped by for a visit. He was around my age, always a friendly face, someone who seemed to understand the quiet ache that comes with getting older. We sat and talked for a while, when he suddenly asked, "Mark, you've got no one living with you, right?" I nodded, my heart heavy, and stayed quiet. He sighed deeply. "I'm in the same boat," he said, his voice thick with shared understanding. "My wife passed, and my kids are all busy with their own lives. I know what it's like to feel this creeping loneliness." Hearing him say that struck me hard. It was like someone had pressed on a bruise I hadn't even known was there. It hurt more than I cared to admit, but at the same time, it felt oddly validating. I wasn't the only one. So many older adults were struggling with the same heartache, the same sense of being left behind. Then, Mr. Lewis looked me in the eye and said something that stayed with me long after our conversation ended. We're at an age now where we have to think ahead. If the day comes when it's just you, alone in this big house, what will you do? His words hit me like a thunderclap, and for days, they echoed in my mind. What if I was truly alone, with no one to talk to, no one to care for me when I was sick? The thought of it terrified me. The silence of my house suddenly seemed louder, more oppressive. I couldn't just sit back and let time slip by. I needed a plan. I had to prepare myself for the future, because if I didn't, I feared I would be swallowed up by loneliness. A few days later, my daughter Eva came by with my granddaughter. I was hoping for a nice, long visit, maybe even some time to catch up. I had cooked a few of Eva's favorite dishes, hoping it would spark some good memories and conversation. But as soon as she walked in, she said, "Dad, I'm sorry, but I only have a bit of time. I still have to pick up Ryan. Work's been crazy lately." I could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the stress of balancing her job and her family. I wanted more than just 15 minutes, but all I could do was smile and say, "That's fine, honey. I'm doing okay." She ate quickly, gathered up my granddaughter, and left. I watched them walk away, feeling a hollow emptiness settle over me. It was a familiar feeling by now, but that didn't make it any easier. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing back to Mr. Lewis's words. What would I do if I spent the rest of my life like this, alone, disconnected, fading into the background? I couldn't let that happen. I had to change something, or I would lose myself entirely. A few days later, I invited Mr. Lewis to join me for a walk in the park. We sat on a bench, watching people stroll by, and I turned to him, my thoughts still heavy. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said the other day," I said. "If we end up alone in our old age, how do we manage?" He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking, too. There are a few things we need to prepare for. First, finances. We need to make sure we have enough saved up to cover everything. Bills, food, medical costs, so we're not caught off guard." I agreed wholeheartedly. Money isn't everything, but without it, life in our later years can be incredibly hard. So, I spent the next few days going over my finances, calculating what I might need in the future, everything from groceries to medical expenses. It was eye-opening. I had to be more careful, more prepared. Mr. Lewis continued, "And we can't rely on our kids forever. They have their own families, their own lives. We have to stay active, find ways to keep engaged with the world. We can't let ourselves fade into isolation." It was a bitter pill to swallow, but he was right. After my retirement, I had allowed myself to fall into a rut. I spent my days watching TV, staring at the walls, feeling the walls close in on me. I had shut myself off from the world, convinced that I didn't have the energy or the motivation to reach out. But that was exactly what was causing the loneliness to grow. So, I made a decision. I started going to the park every morning, doing gentle stretches or jogging. In the evenings, I visited the community center to play chess or board games with other retirees. Slowly but surely, I began to make new friends, and my life began to expand again. I realized that, while I couldn't change the past, I could shape my future. It was up to me to decide how I would face my old age. And little by little, I was finding my way out of the loneliness that had threatened to consume me. There were still nights when the silence would creep in, wrapping itself around me like an oppressive fog. Especially as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of solitude became almost unbearable. My mind, despite my best efforts to quiet it, would race with thoughts of the future. What would happen if I fell seriously ill? Would anyone be there to care for me? These questions gnawed at me in the dark hours, keeping me awake and restless, tossing and turning with a sense of dread I couldn't shake. It was in those quiet, painful moments that the loneliness I had tried to ignore crept in, stronger than ever. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Then one day, an idea began to form. An idea that felt both foreign and comforting. Maybe, just maybe, I could find a companion in my later years. The thought, though, was a double-edged sword. My wife, the love of my life, had only passed away a few short years ago. Was I dishonoring her memory by even considering this? The guilt clung to me, tightening like a noose around my heart. But as the days turned into weeks, and the nights grew longer, I realized that the loneliness was becoming unbearable. The ache inside me, that deep, unrelenting ache, was something I couldn't ignore any longer. I had to speak to someone. So, I confided in Mr. Lewis, my old friend and confidant, who had always been a sounding board for my concerns. He listened carefully, his eyes full of understanding, before he spoke the words I needed to hear. "Mark," he said, his voice steady and reassuring, "there's no shame in wanting companionship at our age. It's not about finding someone to do your laundry or cook your meals. It's about having someone to share your life with, to keep the loneliness at bay." His words, simple yet profound, brought a sense of relief. I wasn't betraying my wife's memory by seeking companionship. I was simply choosing to continue living, to open my heart again. And that, I realized, wasn't something to feel guilty about. Life was meant to be shared. Not long after, during one of my routine evening activities at the community center, I met Linda Brown. She was around my age, with a warm, inviting smile and an energy that felt like a breath of fresh air. Like me, she lived alone, her children scattered across the country for work. Despite the distance, she never seemed to let it weigh her down. Linda had this incredible vitality, a zest for life that was infectious. We clicked immediately, exchanging phone numbers, and soon found ourselves talking on the phone regularly. Before I knew it, we were grocery shopping together, cooking meals side by side, and taking morning walks through the park. It was as though a light had been switched on in my life, something I hadn't realized was missing until it was suddenly there. Her presence, her laughter, the way she made mundane tasks feel special, filled my home with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Eventually, Linda moved in with me. We didn't make any grand declarations or promises. There was no need. Our connection felt like it was meant to be. We were two people who had found solace in each other's company, no longer needing anything more than the simple comfort of each other's presence. Our evenings were quiet, spent watching the news, chatting about the day's little events, or just enjoying the silence together. But then, one day I fell ill. It started with a fever, creeping in slowly, until it took hold of me completely. Linda, as always, was there, by my side, ensuring I took the right medications, soothing me with a cool cloth on my forehead, and even calling my son, Adam, to take me to the doctor. Her care, her concern, was more than I could have ever hoped for. When Adam arrived, his surprise at Linda's devotedness was clear, but he quickly adapted, offering his support. "Dad," he said, "why didn't you call me sooner? You know you can count on me." I gave him a weary smile. "I didn't want to trouble you, son. Linda's been a godsend." Adam looked at me, his expression softening. "I can see that," he said, nodding in understanding. At the hospital, the doctor reassured me that it was just a fever, nothing too serious. Adam offered to have me stay with him until I recovered, but I couldn't bear the thought of being anywhere but home. Linda knew my routine, knew what I needed, and I felt at peace there. That small episode, a fever, a moment of vulnerability, made me realize something so simple, yet so profound. I wasn't alone. And for someone who had spent so many years thinking of loneliness as just a part of life, that revelation was nothing short of a blessing. Linda's steady presence had brought a sense of peace into my world, a peace I hadn't even realized was possible. It wasn't the fiery passion of youth, the kind of love that leaves your heart racing. It was quieter, steadier, and perhaps even more profound. It was the kind of love that filled the empty spaces, that chased away the darkness. But as life often does, it had its plans. One afternoon, Linda received a call from her son, who lived a few states away. He was getting married and wanted her to come help with the preparations. He needed her there, and Linda, torn between the two, couldn't ignore the pull of family. Her eyes filled with concern as she looked at me, knowing how much I depended on her. "Linda," I said, trying to be strong, "this is wonderful news. Your son needs you. You should go." She hesitated, her voice trembling. "I'm so used to being here, with you, Mark. I don't know if I'll be much help there, but maybe I should be with my children." I forced a smile, though it felt like a heavy weight in my chest. "They need you, Linda. You've given me so much already. This is your family, and you have to be there." And with that, she left. I drove her to the bus station, my heart heavy with each passing second. Watching her step onto that bus felt like a part of me was being ripped away. As the bus pulled away, I stood there, rooted to the spot, unable to move. The silence that followed was deafening. I knew that life would never be the same without her. But I also knew that the time we had shared was something I would cherish forever. It had been a late chapter in my life, but one that had brought me a peace and love I had never thought possible at my age. And for that, I was deeply grateful. Once again, I found myself in a house that seemed too large, too quiet, and too lonely. The silence felt like a weight pressing down on me. I tried to hold on to the habits that once gave me comfort, chatting with neighbors, visiting the community center, and even calling my kids when I could. But nothing seemed to fill the emptiness. The warmth Linda brought into our home had faded away, and in its place was a deep, suffocating loneliness, one that felt heavier than I had ever known before. The house, once full of laughter and life, now stood still, as though frozen in time. It was hard to explain to anyone who hadn't experienced it themselves, but it felt like every corner of the house was a reminder of the space she once filled. My son, Adam, and daughter, Eva, called regularly, noticing the sadness in my voice. I could hear the concern in their words, the unease in their questions. They both lived too far away to be by my side as often as they wanted to, and I couldn't expect them to drop everything to care for me. I tried to reassure them, saying it was just part of getting older, but deep down, I knew I was struggling. I knew they had their own lives to live, their own families to care for. I didn't want to burden them more than I already had. Then, one day, at the community center, I overheard a conversation that planted a seed of thought in my mind. A group of people was discussing assisted living facilities, places designed to care for older adults, where medical staff are available, activities are organized, and most importantly, where people like me could find companionship among peers who understood the challenges of aging. The idea was terrifying, but it also seemed like a possible solution to my growing fears. Maybe it was time to look into it. Maybe I needed a place where I wouldn't have to worry about being completely alone if something went wrong. I called Adam that evening, unsure of what to expect. I told him my thoughts, and I could hear the concern in his voice. "Dad, do you want to move into a senior living place? Won't it be depressing?" he asked, almost pleading. His words hit me harder than I expected. I could feel his love and his concern, but I also felt the weight of his doubts. I took a deep breath before responding. "Son, it's not about whether it's depressing or not," I said softly. "It's about finding a place that's stable, where I don't have to worry about being alone if something happens. I know you and Eva would drop everything to be here if I needed you, but you have your own lives. You have your work, your families, your responsibilities. I'm not asking you to take on more than you already have. I just need a place with on-site care, a place where I won't be alone, where I can have friends my age." I paused, gathering my emotions. It's not about being weak. It's about finding peace of mind. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Adam spoke. "Okay, Dad. I'll talk to Eva. We'll figure this out." A few days later, Adam and Eva came over to see me. They sat down across from me, their faces filled with concern. Eva, always the more sensitive one, was the first to speak. "Dad, we understand that living alone is hard. But are you sure a senior community is really what you want?" I looked at them both, the love I had for them flooding my heart, but also the reality of my situation. "I've thought about it for a while now," I said gently. "I need a place where I can be around others who are going through the same things. I appreciate everything you both do for me, but I can't ask you to be there every day. You have your own lives. And I have to face this on my own sometimes." I paused, trying to keep my voice steady. "I don't want to be a burden." They exchanged a glance, and I saw the uncertainty in their eyes. But then Adam nodded, and Eva did too. "We understand, Dad. We'll visit you often," Adam said, his voice sincere. And just like that, I moved to an assisted living home in the suburbs. It was a peaceful place, surrounded by green gardens and cozy recreation rooms. My neighbors were all older adults, many of whom shared similar interests. On my first day, a kind resident named Mr. Vernon showed me around. He introduced me to a small group of people who loved playing chess as much as I did, and I was instantly grateful for the connection. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. That first night in my new bed, as I looked out the window at the moonlit sky, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Yes, the place was new and unfamiliar, but at least I wasn't completely alone. There were people nearby, staff members who cared for us, and new friends who were more than willing to share a cup of coffee or a chat. For the first time in months, I felt a small sense of peace settle into my heart. I wasn't quite home, but I wasn't isolated either. The next few months passed in a blur of routines. Meals in the dining hall, Tai Chi classes in the mornings, and afternoons spent playing games with my new friends. Adam and Eva came by as often as they could, bringing their children with them. They always seemed concerned, but I reassured them that I was adjusting. Slowly, I began to feel a sense of contentment, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. Then, one afternoon, as I was sitting in the sun in the courtyard, I got the call that would change everything. It was Adam, his voice thick with worry. "Dad, Linda's been in a car accident. She's in the ICU, and it doesn't look good." My heart stopped. I felt my world tilt on its axis. "Are you sure? Where is she now?" I managed to ask, the words barely escaping my lips. Adam gave me the details of the hospital, and I felt my hands shake as I held the phone. He asked if I wanted him to pick me up, and I immediately said yes. The drive to the hospital felt like a blur. I kept thinking about the last time Linda and I spoke, how I had tried so hard to be brave, how we promised each other we'd stay in touch. Never in my wildest dreams had I imagined it would end like this. When we arrived at the hospital, Adam and Eva were already waiting. They looked as worried as I felt. Adam came over to me, his face tight with concern. "Dad, the doctors are still working on her. It doesn't look good." I stared at the red emergency light flashing above the operating room doors, my heart pounding in my chest. I prayed silently, clinging to the hope that Linda's strength, her unwavering spirit, would pull her through. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Finally, a doctor emerged, his face etched with exhaustion. I rushed forward, my voice trembling, and asked, "How is she?" He shook his head slowly, his face etched with sorrow, the weight of his words settling heavily in the air. The injuries are severe, and Linda's age makes surgery and recovery more complicated, he said softly, his voice thick with sympathy. I'm so sorry. You need to prepare for the worst. His words felt like a physical blow to my chest. I could barely process what he was saying. My legs gave way beneath me, and Adam rushed to catch me, guiding me gently into a chair. My mind was a void, unable to comprehend the magnitude of the situation. How could this be happening? The doors to the room swung open, and the sight that met me was unbearable. A gurney was rolled in, Linda lying there motionless, an oxygen mask obscuring her face. She was pale, too pale, her skin almost translucent, like the light had been drained from her. The sight of her like that, so fragile, so vulnerable, was like a dagger to my heart. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I rushed to her side, my voice trembling with desperation. Linda, Linda, it's me, Mark. Can you hear me? Her eyelids flickered slightly, but her eyes didn't fully open. Her breath came in shallow, uneven gasps. She couldn't speak, couldn't even muster the strength to respond, but I could feel her presence, a whisper of awareness. I squeezed her cold hand, feeling the weight of her frailty in every fingertip. Hang in there, okay? Remember we were going to spend our golden years together. You can't leave me, Linda. You just can't. A tear escaped from her eye, tracing a delicate path down her cheek, and though her lips moved ever so slightly, no words came out. But in that fleeting moment, I saw it, the faintest recognition in her eyes, as if she could still hear me, still understand. It felt like the world was crashing in on me. My heart shattered, a lump lodged in my throat so tight I could barely breathe. I held onto her hand with everything I had, silently begging her to stay. Adam and Eva stood by, their tears streaming down their faces, knowing the same truth I did, that words could do nothing now. That night, Linda's condition worsened. The doctor's words were a brutal finality, confirming what we all feared: she was slipping away. I couldn't bring myself to leave her side. My fear, my dread of missing her final moments, anchored me there. I refused to look away, terrified that if I blinked, she would be gone. Then, as if sensing me there, her eyelids fluttered once more. She raised her hand, weak and trembling, just enough to place it in mine. I squeezed her hand, feeling the tremor in her fingers, and tears fell onto her wrist. Linda, I whispered, my voice breaking. Please don't go. Please stay with me. And then, in a voice so faint, so fragile, it barely registered, she spoke. Mark, live well. Her hand went limp, and her eyes closed for the final time. A cry tore from my throat, but it was swallowed by the deafening silence of the room. The beeping of the monitors flatlined, and in that moment, I felt as if the ground beneath me had crumbled into nothingness. A lifetime of love, of shared memories, and dreams of the future, all gone in an instant. In all my 62 years, I had lost loved ones, but this was different. Linda had been my anchor, my partner through every storm. Now she was gone, and with her, a part of me had gone too. The days that followed felt like a blur, each one merging into the next with no distinction. I returned to the assisted living home, but it felt empty, hollow. My new friends tried to comfort me, offering kind words and gentle smiles, but nothing could fill the void that had been left by Linda's absence. Adam and Eva visited more often, bringing the grandkids in hopes of cheering me up, but I could see it in their eyes, the helplessness, the sadness they couldn't hide. I appreciated their efforts, but the numbness inside me refused to lift. At night, I would lie awake, memories of Linda flooding my mind. Her voice, her laugh, the warmth of her presence, all now just fragments of a past I could never return to. I would close my eyes and feel the emptiness stretch out before me, an endless expanse of grief. The simple, everyday moments we shared seemed like treasures now, like when she would wipe my forehead when I was sick, her gentle touch the only comfort in a world that felt too harsh. But now, that touch was just a memory, fading with each passing day. One morning, I noticed a new resident at the facility. An older man, his face marked by the same sadness I had worn when I first arrived. He looked lost, like he didn't know where to turn. I saw myself in him, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of compassion. I walked over and gave him a gentle pat on the shoulder. "Hey, care to take a walk around the courtyard with me?" He didn't say anything, but I saw the small relief in his eyes, as if my simple offer of companionship had given him a glimmer of hope. We walked side by side, wordlessly, yet I could feel the unspoken understanding between us. Aging is hard. Losing the people we love is unbearable. But sometimes, just having someone there, a steady presence, can make it a little more bearable. That evening, as I lay in bed, Linda's face came to me again, vivid and clear. But something had shifted inside me. The pain, though still raw, was no longer all-consuming. I felt a deep gratitude for the time we had shared, for the love we had known. She may have been gone, but the impact she had on my heart, on my life, remained. In the days that followed, I began to find a new resolve. Linda had always believed in living well, in cherishing every moment. And now, more than ever, I understood the truth of those words. I stepped outside one morning, feeling the warmth of the early sunlight on my face. I breathed deeply, remembering her voice, her advice: value each relationship, treasure each day. Life is fragile, and people come and go, but the love and kindness we give and receive live on. As I stood there, a soft breeze brushing my face, I knew that, in her memory, I would live well. As I reflect on the years that have passed, I've come to realize that old age is not merely a time of loss, as many might think. It's a time of awakening, of realization. It's the humbling understanding that every relationship we hold dear, whether it's the bond with our family, the friendships we've nurtured, or even the unexpected companionships we form in our later years, must be cherished while we still have them. Time, in our later years, seems to slip away faster than we ever imagined. The clock ticks on relentlessly, but that doesn't mean we can't fill the remainder of our time with purpose, meaning, and deep appreciation for the simple things that make life worth living. I can't help but think of a quote by the renowned writer Haruki Murakami. He speaks of aging not as a gradual, predictable progression, but as something that happens in sudden bursts. One moment, you're in your prime, and the next, it feels as though a year has passed without you even noticing. You look in the mirror, and suddenly, your youth is gone. It's that stark realization when people start calling you a sir or ma'am. And with that simple shift in language, the veil of youth that we've clung to for so long begins to slip away. It's the aching truth that our parents, who were once our pillars, grow frail or pass away, and as we stare at our reflection, we see ourselves aging too. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's during this time that you start choosing your words more carefully. You speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because you begin to realize how few people truly listen, truly understand the essence of who you are. You face challenges, obstacles that once seemed unfathomable. Your health starts to wane, financial worries creep in, and the busy lives of your children mean that visits become fewer and farther between. It's as if, despite having surrounded yourself with countless friends, you begin to understand that true connection and empathy are rare treasures. But in the stillness of the night, when the world is quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts, there can be a peculiar peace that settles over you. It's not a peace born from external circumstances, but one that comes from within. If you've reached a place of acceptance, you realize that your value doesn't depend on others' opinions or approval. You've learned, perhaps the hard way, that humility is the gateway to peace in your later years. Not pride, not ego, but a deep, quiet humility. As you age, your perspective on love inevitably shifts. When you were younger, love might have been an all-consuming, passionate force that you believed would last forever. But as the years go by, some relationships fade, and you learn that not all love stories are meant to stand the test of time. People change. You change. And that's okay. The beauty lies not in holding on to the past, but in honoring the memories that shaped who you've become. Love evolves, just as we do. The weight of life's disappointments can certainly pile up, but so do the moments of grace, small, often unnoticed blessings that appear just when you need them most. And this is where wisdom comes in. As you age, you stop placing unrealistic expectations on others, which frees you from the heartache of constant disappointment. Some might call it cynicism, but I think it's simply wisdom, a recognition that peace comes from balancing hope with realism. In the end, you come to realize something profoundly empowering. The one person who will always be there for you is you. If you can find a way to stand on your own 2 feet, to rise above the heartaches and challenges life throws at you, then you've found a strength that no one, no circumstance, can ever take away. That's a kind of resilience that will see you through the toughest of times. With that understanding, let me leave you with this thought. If you find yourself growing older and alone, remember that it's never too late to prepare for the journey ahead. Don't shy away from building a solid financial plan, maintaining your independence as much as possible, and nurturing your soul with friendships, hobbies, and even the possibility of new companionship. Life may surprise you with people who bring unexpected joy, even if they only stay for a short while. Cherish the ones who truly care for you. But don't be afraid to place yourself in environments where you can find the help you need, where support is available when the days become harder to navigate. Whether that's an assisted living community, staying with your children, or living near close friends, it doesn't matter. There's no one right way to age. There's only the way that allows you to hold on to your comfort, dignity, and companionship as you journey through your final decades. Embrace this time with gratitude, knowing that you have the power to create a fulfilling, meaningful life at any age. As we reflect on the powerful lessons that come with age, it's clear that growing older isn't just about the years that pass. It's about the wisdom, understanding, and grace we gain along the way. Life teaches us to cherish our relationships, accept the inevitable changes, and embrace the strength that comes from within. But what has resonated most with you? Think about one thing you've learned today, something that can shape how you approach your life moving forward. What is that one lesson you'll carry with you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please take a moment to comment below and share what you've learned and how you plan to bring it into practice in your own life. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating content that brings value to you and others. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments.